had one eye open, watch, why? How do you know it's dangerous? Or how is it dangerous? Or something like that. Skepticism. So here's my answer, getting back to the rebirth of curiosity, or just the general issue of now curiosity getting submerged or suppressed. Why did people, I don't know how old the different folks are, but whenever cholesterol or saturated fat first got demonized, it wasn't all that long ago. Or you could pick something else if you know of some other substance that you want to pick. Why do so many people simply accept the statement cholesterol is dangerous?
I never really understood it, because like I didn't feel good
okay.
eating a lot of starch
Let
or
me
sugar.
let me go
I
to.
never understood people saying it's high carb, low carb, all that kind of stuff. It took me a long time because it didn't make sense. Because I liked cream cheese and sour cream and catty fish and lamb, nice greasy lamb, and it wasn't considered unhealthy in my family.
Right. Okay.
Those things,
so let me jump back to your other example that you gave of drugs are bad. What did you think? Why did you challenge your mom when she said that?
Well,
Prove it.
I could tell she was very serious about it.
Right.
And I was pretty obedient, so I just figured, okay, it's something I should just stay away from.
So you did ask about what does she mean specifically by drugs?
Yeah,
but
because I didn't know at first. I didn't know what she was talking about.
did you ask? Do you remember asking how marijuana is bad, or you just said, okay,
No.
got to stay away from it? Right. So you had a certain amount of interest in what your mom said because she's your mom. So your mom said drugs are bad, and you're like, well, if I do them, what's my punishment? She's like, oh, no phone for a week. Okay, I'm not going to do it, or at least if I am, I'm not going to tell you. Bam, right? You get how simple that dynamic is? So when I ask about when we're told, or when someone's told the school system is now presenting curriculum that says cholesterol is dangerous, why don't people respond with skepticism? It makes sense that people might respond with skepticism or curiosity, right? How is it bad? Why is it bad? Why do people mostly simply accept what the authority tells them is important and tells them is true and simply repeat it back? Why do people do that?
To get a good grade in the class, you can feel good that you had a good grade.
That's a great answer. Why do the parents do that? If the parents gets told it's in the curriculum, cholesterol is dangerous, that's why we teach it, and the parent asks, the parent is presented the information, why isn't the parent more curious about that? About the curriculum, about the accuracy of the curriculum? Why aren't most parents more curious?
Sometimes parents are too busy. They're living their own life. They're working their job. They're trying to get things accomplished, and they just put their trust in the school. If they put their kid in, that the school is going to do the right thing.
Okay.
Teach the kids the right thing.
So they're busy. That's not always true, but in some cases that's a really big factor. They trust the schools. Not always true, but I think that's a really important thing. They went to the same school. I went to that school 20 years ago myself, and my child is going there now. And of course I don't question the curriculum, because that implies that the things I learned when I was in school could be what? Inaccurate. They could be wrong. They could be imprecise. So that's not just a matter of trust. That's a matter of actual, we could say anxiety. I'm looking for the right word for it, but I don't want to even consider the possibility that 33% of the presumptions that I was trained to have are wrong. If I'm an adult or a parent, do I want to think 33% of what I've been taught is inaccurate? That's not an attractive thought. If I'm told 3% of what you know is inaccurate, I might go, oh really, 3%? I'd like to know what 3%. Tell me more about that. But if someone says to me 33% of what you believe to be true is wrong, that's a lot of percentage, right? That's a lot of stuff. That's going to be a kind of assertion that I might respond to. How? How would I respond to that? Or how would the average person respond to that?
sometimes parents feel threatened. You know, they've learned things, they've been practicing their life a certain way, and so the kids have a different idea. It's like they feel like their child is rejecting their hard work or their belief or their path in life.
So let's say that a child questions the parent, right? So that becomes a perceived threat. If the child questions me about 1 or 2 things that I'm comfortable talking about, cool. If the child questions me about 5 things and is persistent and keeps asking why, I'm going to give them detention, or I'm going to send them to boarding school, or I'm going to, I don't know what. But it could be disruptive to the parent, and it might be disruptive in a temporary way, like I'm going to send them to soccer camp, and in a week, I'll be on vacation, and I'll be glad to talk to them about those issues. But in many cases, basically, parents have gone to school, so when they get information that a school is presenting, the schools, okay, there's some new research, it's 1973, new research, I don't know what year it was, but new research comes out, says cholesterol is dangerous, the school is teaching it, and the parents think, oh, the school's teaching it, it must be true. So they trust, but they trust in a way that is already compliant. It's already complacent. It's like, I went to school, I learned that the school is the authority, the school tells me what's important, the school tells me what's true. 20 years later, I'm now 30 years old or whatever, and the school, different school, same school, whatever, the school says blah, blah, blah is important, blah, blah, blah is true. What's the average parent think? Nothing. They don't think at all. That's not part of their response, to think. They think that they just were informed of a fact, which is cholesterol is dangerous, or whatever the point of the curriculum is. If the news media comes on and the president of the United Nations says, what happened today was a tragedy, then most people think, oh, today was a tragedy. Okay. What happened today was a surprise. We didn't expect it. Oh, everybody just, there's an authority figure, especially if the newscaster repeats it. We've got the newscaster repeating it. The school teacher repeats it. The president of the United Nations repeats it. The Grand Marshal of the state of Georgia repeats it. The Grand Dragon of the state of Arizona repeats it. Grand Dragon is a little bit of a silly reference there, but the point is some perceived authority figure. Discover Magazine reported recently that schools are infallible, and so is the head of the Roman Catholic Church. And that's been the case for the last 7,000 years. Why? Because that's what CNN said. Who? Lou Dobbs. He's a CNN guy, and he's on CNN, so he must be, trustworthy, right? Because he's on CNN, so he must be trustworthy, right? Because I watch CNN, and I've watched it for the last 7 years, and I've learned 49,000 things from it, and I don't want someone to tell me 16% of what you learn on CNN might be imprecise. Do I want to hear that? No. I might want to hear 3% of what you've learned on CNN might be imprecise, but I don't want to hear 16%. That's pretty high. So you guys are with me here as far as my general process? Okay.
I haven't heard from him in a while.
Mike? I'm not certain. It is possible for him to have hung up. I wouldn't know because of how my phone. Oh, here he is.
I'm here.
Do you want to comment on any of that?
I don't have anything to add.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna ask you guys if you want an opportunity. As I was talking about, different things that we're taught that many people will take without skepticism, that they'll just presume is true because they heard it from a perceived authority. As I was talking about it, or as we go, what are a couple quick, short examples that you think of things that maybe you think that they might be imprecise or inaccurate, but you're pretty confident that most people accept a particular thing as true. Any other examples that come to mind that you want to share? Mike, go ahead. He didn't answer yet. How about you, Rose?
I can't think of anything at the moment. What about Valerie? Is she coming back, do you know?
No, she hasn't been on this portion of the call. Do you want to share anything? Okay. So government officials often say some particular party is to blame. Imagine the Grand Poobah of Africa says the attack last week is the fault of the whatever, the pigs or the orangutans. If it's something that's not like unreasonable, like what I just said, then generally speaking, people who trust that speaker will simply assume that whatever is repeated frequently is true. So we're getting to a point where, in the conversation, we're getting to a point where there's certain subject matter and even certain conclusions that aren't welcome for curiosity. There's certain things that in certain groups or in certain social communities, certain subject matter not only isn't welcome as a topic, but it is welcome as a topic, and you have to conclude the official sacred conclusion, or there's going to be issues. There's going to be, disruption of the social unity and of some individuals' participation in a social group or in a community. So a lot of us on the, basically you're on that group too. Those of us who are listening now live, we're on a particular group in Facebook. There are certain topics that would be considered off topic, certain things that would be considered totally on topic, and everybody generally agrees with, or generally we would expect agreement. And certain positions would be considered disruptive, or certain ways of delivering them would definitely be considered, if not disruptive, at least unexpected, like really out of the norm. So groups have norms. Individuals also take in to themselves standards of what is expected or what is normal. So anybody want to comment on all that? Any examples you think of that you want to share?